Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Star Trek. Nope, Fake Nerds Watch. Yeah, you know what? Yes, welcome back to another episode of Star Trek. No. This is Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Picard, Season 3. Today we're going to be talking about Episode 3, 17 Seconds, directed by Jonathan Frakes, written by Jane Maggs and Cindy Apple, I think. Appel, probably.
We'll go for that.
I'm Brandon T. McClure, coming to you from a remote location. I'm at my parents' place, so I'm a little echoey. I hope that's okay. Join me as always on this journey is Cookie from Just a Little Podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing good, my friend. How are you?
Doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm tired.
How's it feel to be back at the old stomping grounds, your parents' place?
Horrible. I hate this place.
Really?
Yeah, I hate my hometown.
No.
Yeah, I despise it. I wish I could burn it to the ground.
It's hilarious because like I've lived in Florida all my life, but I've only lived in like this small radius my entire life. Like I've never really ventured out of Florida. Like I've lived in Georgia for summers, but that's about it. Like I'd go to my uncle's house for the entire summer and I'd spend it there. Other than that, it's always like here in Florida, here in West Palm. So
this place sucks. Anyway, we're a little late this week. The fourth episode is going to drop in a couple of hours as we're recording, but probably by the time you're watching this, the fourth episode is out. But you know what? Schedules were hectic. As I said, I had to travel. Cookie has got some exciting things on the way, so getting his time is difficult.
For sure.
But I really appreciate you doing this with me. What did you think of this episode?
I thought it was great. I definitely thought it was great. And before I even knew that this was Jonathan Frakes, it had his stamp on there. It had his feel on it a lot. And maybe because he had a little bit of moments kind of like shining, especially towards the end of the episode. And it almost just like, it was like, yeah, this was definitely written by him or definitely directed by him. One of the two had to happen because it felt like this was his moment to shine. And I enjoyed it.
You know, Jonathan Frakes has directed, I think, has directed an episode on every live action Star Trek show since The Next Generation.
Really?
I think that's true. And I know he directed 2 movies. He directed First Contact and Insurrection. So he's Star Trek royalty. Yeah. And he hasn't directed Lower Decks, but he is directing the Lower Decks Strange New Worlds crossover episode.
Look at that. That's
next
cool.
Season.
So, that is cool.
I love Jonathan Frakes. Obviously, I love Will Riker. He's one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek. His episode in Season 1 is, I think, the highlight of Star Trek Picard Season 1. And this is the best episode of Star Trek Picard at this point in time.
Right.
I thought this was excellent.
Yes.
I was blown away, literally on the edge of my seat the whole episode.
So good. And it just it kept me wondering so much. It kept me guessing. Like I thought I was on the right track with what was going to happen, and then it veers left. I'm like, okay, let me get back on track, and it's like, nope, we're going to veer right again. It's just like it was really, really great pacing, great action, great development. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, I was. I've seen this episode 3 times now. And each time it's just such a good hour of television. Like there's just no 2 ways around it. I think this episode is excellent. Let's start with Raffi and Worf.
Okay.
Because that's the B plot of this episode. There's correct. No 2 ways around it. But I was right. Worf allows Raffi to no longer spin their wheels. They are the plot line with Raffi really moves in this episode.
Yes.
And she and Worf deliver the dynamic I didn't know I wanted.
Because we've had like you said last episode, we had Data and Picard. We now have Will and Picard, but now we're getting Worf and Raffi, and it's like this marrying of these different characters as couples, not in like a romantic way, but just how they mesh together has been so well done and well thought out. And each person is like a yin and a yang and a balance to each other.
Yeah. when Worf introduces himself. Couple of Easter eggs that I can't help not point out, but Worf is listening to the classical musical piece that Picard is listening to in First Contact.
Yes.
That's very cool. Worf lists off his title,
The
which is
whole title.
incredible. Just I geeked out at Slayer of Gowron because that's
Yes.
such a great moment in Deep Space Nine when he kills
Yes.
Gowron. I was House Martok. Oh, Martok,
So
the
great.
best Klingon.
So like I was smiling from ear to ear, and I looked at him and I'm like, he's a good looking Klingon. Like
Yeah, he
a lot of
is.
them are really ugly dudes. Like he actually kept his physique. He looks good with the white. I love him as a human being. I love him as a character. He
Yeah,
was phenomenal. And
I think
exactly how you felt. I had goosebumps when I heard
his
the name.
his redesign, not really redesign, like they clearly have painstakingly made his ridges look the same way,
Mhm.
which is great. His white hair I think works so well for him. He looks
Yes,
so good with that white hair. And Michael Dorn doesn't miss a beat, slipping
at all.
right into that character. He's very good in that role. A couple of interesting things about it is that Worf, he's like he's not working with Starfleet, which we kind of figured.
Mhm.
It's actually really strange Worf's trajectory with Starfleet because he in Nemesis he's working with Starfleet, but that's after Deep Space Nine where he leaves
Yes.
Starfleet to
So it's
be
in
an
deep space.
ambassador.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's really strange.
Mhm.
And now he's not working with Starfleet, but like our interests align. And I was like, okay, this is fine. I'm happy to see this. And Raffi kind of like, oh my god, you're a legend.
Yeah.
Picard would talk about you all the time, and I love that Picard talked about Worf, and it's very good. The dynamic is incredible.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree. And one of the things that I really liked was the fact that they actually mentioned his outfit because Rafi's
Hmm.
like, "Well, you kind of stand out." And he's like, well, this is like I forgot what exactly it was. I don't know if you have
Casual wear.
casual wear. I was going to say vacation wear. Yeah, this is casual wear. And it just made me smile and laugh just to hear him say that this is my casual attire. I was like, that's so cool. I did like when Raffi experienced withdrawals because she was so codependent on her drugs and having to go and do this and Worf saying like I told you not to do this. I told you to stand down. And she's like, "You blew my cover." He's like, "Your cover was blown a long time ago, sweetheart."
Yeah,
So
and
it
he even
was
says he's like, you're done. We're done. You need to stop. Nobody want people advise you not to take this mission anyway because of your history with drugs and addiction. And she's like, I can do this. I can do this. And there's after that, there's really no give and take anymore. Worf's like, okay, we're partners then.
yeah, that's it. Just I trust you, you trust me. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I like that. Again, it does what I was hoping it would do, which is give Raffi's subplot momentum.
Mhm.
Um, I don't. I want. We can't talk anymore about Raffi and Worf without talking about the big reveal, and I want to wait for that.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So then let's move to the Titan.
Okay.
This is, I think some excellent stuff every week with the Titan. And this is where I think Jonathan Frakes has shook off his rust. He delivers some of his best work as an
Yes.
actor as Riker in this episode.
I agree. I so agree with everything that like I said, this was really his episode to shine,
Mhm.
and he made it his sole mission to be like, you know what? If I have nothing else after this episode, I'm gonna go and lay everything on the line. I'm gonna put my heart and my soul into this one episode. And his monologues that he does,
Mhm.
especially towards the end, it just like it shakes you as a person. You're like, we'll get to it, but it just shakes you as a person hearing how well he delivers his lines.
Yeah. Um, there's a lot of so Shaw gets
Injured.
he gets injured,
Yeah.
and he's like, okay, transfer my command codes to Riker. He's the senior officer on staff right now. It's his ship, and Shaw because Shaw trusts Riker. Get my crew home.
Mhm.
This is your fault. You get us out of this.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that makes well. Okay, let's talk about something actually really interesting about Shaw because Shaw gives his bridge staff relief. He's like, okay, we got some time. Guys, you've been pulling 36-hour shifts. Get out of here. Get some rack time.
Mhm.
Really cool.
Yeah. Especially like to actually hear that happen versus it's just like around the clock, kind of like Discovery is always just go, go, go. You never see a switch kind of
Yeah,
take place.
that's true. That's a good point. Again, we rag on Discovery a lot, and I feel bad. I feel bad. Oh my god, I was going to actually say we should talk about its cancellation.
Yes, I was gonna mention that towards the end of the episode,
Yeah,
just like
let's wait for the end of the episode to do
finals.
that.
Yeah.
Because people are here for the Picard talk, and they'll get the Discovery talk later.
For sure. When we see Shaw kind of like doing that, it actually gave him more of like a dynamic to his character, and I actually enjoyed him just a little bit. I enjoyed him as a character. I was like, okay, maybe he's not all a douchebag. Maybe he does have a little heart beating inside there, like a little Grinch heart beating in there. So it was
He's
nice
not
to kind of
that
see
bad
it.
of a guy.
I know he just rubbed me the wrong way because he just didn't. Just one little incident caused me to ruin my appearance with him. So
I mean, think about it this way: two old ass men walk onto your you're the captain of a ship. Two old ass men walk onto your ship, demand you to change course, and
but
now you are in a fight for your life.
I agree. Now the thing is, you're a comic book fan like myself.
Sure.
So what if that was like we're gonna go with Professor X and Charles Xavier? What if these two old clowns came over to your car and said, "Hey, we need to borrow your car because we need to go and run down to I don't know the Pentagon or whatever, or we need to run down to the Golden Bridge. We need to borrow your car." You're like, is this really happening? Is this really Professor X? And is this really like Magneto sitting in my car, taking the wheel, taking ownership, and I'm just sitting in the back, or I'm riding Biscuit in the middle?
The analogy isn't so far off. But I will only say I'm not a soldier.
Touche, touche. Okay.
So because again, Shaw has orders to do something that people higher than even Picard have ordered him to do.
Yeah, very true.
And again, now he's in a fight for his life.
Yes, and his crew and his crew's life.
Yes, and like we saw that last week, he's always concerned about his crew. He's like, "You got us into this. I do not want my crew to die."
Mhm.
Um,
And seeing that battle, the way that they orchestrated that battle in the nebula, I thought was really, really great on how they navigated and allowed for that kind of like PTO time, just like, hey, let's take a back seat. You guys relax because we're away from them. We've lost them, or
yeah,
we've lost them. For those who can't
yeah,
see the air quotes.
and that's really nice because like that gives Sydney a really sweet moment with Seven,
Yes.
just to kind of give her a rehearsed speech, which I'm glad they called it out as a rehearsed speech. But then to have her call her Commander Seven, which is I
Mhm.
think is really important.
Yeah.
Um, but Shaw gets incapacitated,
Mhm.
and Riker takes command of the Titan. Really nice. I gotta just say, as a fan, just as a fan, it's really nice to see Captain Riker in action.
Yes. Yes. Very
'Cause
much so.
we don't get to see that.
Not often. No.
We got it twice in Lower Decks, I think, but like that's Lower Decks is like a hyper specialized version of Star Trek. We don't really get to see like what a Titan show would have looked like,
Mhm.
and I think this is our like first glimpse at what that show could have been
Yeah.
if it had spun off from Nemesis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How did you feel about seeing Shaw kind of go down to the medical bay and things kind of took a random turn for the worse? Did you expect that to happen? Because I know we both talked about him potentially not being throughout the rest of the series because his character seems like it could be a character that might die off.
I'm surprised he's lasted this long. I'll be honest. um, I'm happy about it because I do like the character and I do like the actor.
Okay.
Um, but I'm shocked that that character hasn't been killed off. And this kind of goes to another thing of like, so we're 3 episodes in now,
Mhm.
and we still haven't met Jordy or Deanna, or we'll talk about the Deanna flashback in a minute.
Well, that wasn't a flashback though, wasn't that? That was because we saw her in this episode, I believe, right?
Well, yeah, we see her in this episode, but as a flashback in the beginning,
Yeah,
because
of her.
we see like the just after Thaddeus was born,
Yes.
which I thought was really cute. just to say, I think that's a really sweet moment between Riker and Picard.
Mhm.
They're in the wrong uniform, but it's fine. It doesn't bother me that much. um, uh, but the de-aging on Riker looked better than it did on Picard, I
Mhm.
think, on that scene. But so we haven't met Geordi yet. We haven't met Deanna yet. Lore hasn't shown up, and we know that Lore is going to be in the show.
Mhm.
And is that it that we haven't
I
met?
I believe that's it. I know we're probably gonna get the combination of them joining up together and
Yeah.
being like a crew again.
Well, but what I think is really interesting, as it is, we have more to come. Obviously, we're pretty early in the episode, in the season, and we haven't met some of these next gen characters, and I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
Honestly, if this show was just Riker and Picard go on an adventure,
You'd still be cool with it.
I'd still be cool with it.
Yeah, same here.
Because I think their dynamic works so well, and it's been so long since we've seen them work together that it's been kind of refreshing. Like, oh my god, of course, this is what I've been missing in my life.
Exactly, yes.
The rest of the next gen crew is just the icing on the cake.
Even though I am a Jordy fan, so I do wanna see him kinda come into the mix. Hopefully, I'm guessing this is gonna be the episode where he makes his entrance. I don't think it's gonna
Oh, I
happen in the
think it's the
beginning.
next one. I think it's the
You
next
think s
one.
okay.
Personally, well, ooh,
'Cause I think it's
no,
gonna happen at the end.
because he's at the Fleet Museum, and they still haven't escaped Vadic yet.
Correct, but they without divulging too f you wanna just get into that part right now?
Sure, let's just do it. Let's
Okay.
stop dancing around it.
So with them constantly trying to go and do this like chicken and mouse game or cat and mouse game, however you want to call it, of them running.
No, chicken and mouse.
Okay, chicken and mouse. Them constantly running and trying to go and hide because they don't have the equipment, but they have the speed to potentially outrun them in the nebula and get away
Yeah,
from them. So seeing that kind of happen was really, really cool, really exciting. And then having Will take over the the Titan and seeing Picard now be his number one and him saying that,
that
that
was
just
cute. Well,
so
I think it's
adorable.
time you called me number one.
So adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, I think real quickly before we kind of get into like the big revelations of the episode is, I think it's really cool that there was tension between Riker and Picard. Picard's like, it's time to fight. We got to fight. And Riker's like, no, I want to save this crew. We got to get
Yeah.
out of here. We're outgunned. And I think I fall on Riker's side, and even I'm kind of wondering why Picard was so gun ho about it. I think it does
Mhm.
make sense for who Picard is right now in his life, and who Riker is in their lives. And I think that the one thing that Picard season 1 did really well is show how time changes people. And so we're seeing how that time has changed Riker and Beverly and Worf, and we'll keep seeing it. And I think that's done really well. But what it also has done is Riker and Picard haven't worked together in over 20 years,
Mhm.
because Riker went off to be the captain of the Titan, and Picard went off to
The
He
Admiral.
he was still the captain of the Enterprise, and then he promoted to an admiral, and then he retired.
Right.
But it's been so long that they don't work well together anymore.
Mhm.
And that happens with people who just haven't seen each other in a long time. How many times have you I don't know if you've done this, but like many times I'll be here in my hometown, and I'll reconnect with an old friend that I knew from high school. We have like nothing in common anymore.
Yeah, because you have matured as a person, and that person has developed and matured as a person. So your interests that once aligned back then no longer align because you don't see those same things as valuable anymore.
Yeah, and we do get, because they are such good friends, we do still get glimpses of the two of them, connected of the two of them working well together with, like, the torpedo and the phaser. By the way, beam phasers, hell yes. Um, so, like, the torpedo and the phaser bit, like, yeah, that was the two of them working together as it always has been, but the clash comes when when Picard is like, "There was no other option than to fight at this point,"
We
and
need to
Riker's
fight.
like,
Yeah.
"We need to get out of here."
Mhm.
Um, and I think that was really well done. And whether or not I think Riker might have been a little too harsh at the end, I think it's kind of worth
I
it.
think it's justified.
I think so too. I think so too. I Picard had no idea that the portal weapon could be used like that, though.
Correct. But it's like it kind of like assured Will that like, hey, I was put in command for a reason for this ship, and it's because he does trust me to make sure this crew gets home safely.
Yeah,
Because if not, when you look at ranking, retired or not, looking at admiral versus a captain, you're going to go and say, well, admiral theoretically has more right to a ship than a captain does. But in this sense, he chose Riker for the correct reason. And seeing how gun ho Picard was at that moment, and it's like, dude, you're not understanding that there's more than just your son, yourself, and your ex fling on the ship. There are souls on the ship that need to get home, that have families that they have to get to, and all you're thinking about is fighting. And Will's like, you need to chill out. Like I'm in command of the ship. Sit back, number one.
yeah. So let's talk about the big reveal before we get any further.
Let's do it.
So, Raffi and Worf's plot line comes to a head when they find some guy who sold the portal tech to, I think, Toluco. I think he sold it
Yeah,
to Toluco,
correct.
or Vatic or whoever. And
I think it's Saluko.
well, he's definitely stole it from the Daystrom Institute.
Hmm.
And there's two revelations in that one. One, the small revelation is that it was a distraction and they actually stole something else. I
Yes.
think that's lore.
You think that's what?
I think they stole lore
Okay. Really?
because lore is in the Daystrom Institute. Last we saw.
That's very interesting. That
Yeah.
is extremely like that wouldn't surprise me, because if you really think about it, using data and then like him being gone and having the rest of the crew back again, I think you're right. I think you're
Yeah.
right.
I think that's how lore comes into play because how is he activated? Because he was deactivated and dismantled at the end of the two-parter that we last saw him in Descend.
Mhm.
And he hasn't shown up again since. And last we heard, B4 was in the Daystrom Institute. We saw him in Picard season 1. And lore was probably at the Daystrom Institute. So if they stole lore and reactivated him, that I think brings him back into the story in an interesting way. The major revelation, though,
Major, which had me like spinning. I was like, what is going on here? This is amazing.
changelings.
Yes. And I
I
was like,
never thought I'd hear the word changelings again.
Deep Space Nine, here we go. I was so ecstatic, dude.
Me too.
It was great.
I flipped. Like again, when I say that I was on the edge of my seat the entire episode, I mean it. Up to this point, I was already like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And even when I saw the other guy get punched in the face and like morph his face, I was like, "That's weird. Probably just a shapeshifter. That's that's
That was
fine."
it.
But like
What?
we saw a changeling in Discovery season 3. I don't
Yeah,
know if you remember,
but
or 4.
it wasn't executed very well.
No, it's just a thief.
Yeah.
So so when this guy becomes a changeling and it's like, actually, there are changelings trying to restart the Dominion War.
Yes.
It's like, oh
Yes.
shit.
Dude, it hit me so hard. And then Worf going and saying, well, I know a changeling who was
A
like,
man of honor.
oh, it melted me, man. I was like, that's so beautiful. So freaking beautiful.
Nice callback to Odo.
Absolutely.
Definitely needed. The idea that like Odo contacted Worf and said, "Hey, look, there are some changelings that have split from the Great Link who are going to try and attack the Alpha Quadrant.
Yes.
I can't do anything about it, but you
Give me
can."
chills, bro. You're giving me chills, man.
So good. Made me ecstatic.
It did.
The fact that we got a stealth sequel to Deep Space Nine.
Yes. And I was talking about, I was like, hey, even though we're getting a send off right now for Next Generation, there could be a send off potentially in here for some more stuff. And I'm really happy that we are getting some Deep Space Nine callbacks, especially big callbacks like that, because that was huge. And I'm just ecstatic, dude. I'm ecstatic to see how this is going to happen, how the war might potentially get reinvigorated and restarted up. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where this goes, how the changelings are connected to Vatic, who I don't think is a changeling.
Yeah. Well, I think she could be because of how.
She's got
No,
a
no.
scar.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like her entire crew is like different aliens, and she's
Yeah.
able to communicate with them.
I
But at the
don't
same time, changelings don't need necessarily to talk to communicate.
Yeah, I don't think she or her crew are changelings. I think she's working for the changelings,
Okay.
or the changelings are working for her. But again, this is all speculation. Like we don't really have a lot. It's weird that a changeling would willingly have a scar on her face,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm sure maybe that is the case. It's just
Hmm.
where the show is at right now, I'm just not as convinced that she's a changeling.
So then,
Um,
how do you foresee? Do you foresee her being just another pawn in the Great Link, or do you think that maybe she's more of the queen in the Great Link?
oh, I don't know. I think it could be this. The changelings who have split from the Great Link have hired Vatic
Okay.
to help them with their. But then how does Jack Crusher fall into this? There's still some pieces that aren't connecting, and that's fine. We're
Yeah.
only 3 episodes in, and this is definitely there's still they're giving us pieces to connect, and they're keeping pieces away. So I'm not. I talked about this a lot with season 2, if you recall, but like by the end of the season, we still had so many pieces to the puzzle that just weren't connecting,
Correct.
and I don't think any of them connected very well by the end of it.
Hmm.
But here we're still early enough that we've gotten enough pieces. There's some pieces connecting, and there's some aren't, and we're early enough where I'm like, okay, I'm still waiting for more of those pieces to come to me, and I'm happy that at the pace that I'm being given them.
Correct. And I was about to say the same thing. I think that the pacing of everything and how we are getting answers, and it's like these answers are being now filled with another question. And it's a
Yeah,
constant change off, not to say changing.
changeling.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended, but seeing those like hands kind of flip-flop between answering questions and getting new questions, I'm really liking. And I think that it's really interesting how everything's flowing so smoothly, and we're only 3 episodes in. This is what, 8 is it an 8 episode season?
It's 10.
10. Okay, so we still have plenty of time to really develop a lot more, and I think that this is really just like not even I think we're now pushing what we thought was the A plot with this striker ship now
Strike.
dropping down. Strike ship
Yeah.
now dropping down to maybe a B level type of plot, and
Well, I don't
maybe.
necessarily think it's that. I think what we're seeing now with the changeling plot line with Worf and Raffi is the A plot is going, and the B plot is getting closer to intersecting with it.
So you think it's going to merge into one giant A plot?
I think soon we're going to see the two plots collide,
Okay, sounds
which
good.
I'd be happy with, because putting it would just be a bummer keeping Worf away from the rest of the crew, and
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to do that.
Well, I do. When you brought up Jack, I had a little speculation on him. Now that you brought this
Sure.
up with lore, maybe he has like a missing piece that, in order to activate lore, they have to get Jack because Jack knows where that missing piece is. Because they've been traveling,
Hmm.
him and his mom have been traveling over the galaxy, all over the place. So maybe they've stopped off here, stopped off there, and in doing so, they've ended up acquiring that piece that's missing that they need to bring lore into the action.
Well, it's possible. Well, but Jack
Because why
has
would you
this.
want him to be? Why is he wanted?
Yeah, Jack has this kind of flashback sequence, not flashback, like a hallucination sequence when he's passing out from the Vitruvian
The gas.
Vitruvian gas. That's not it. The gas. When he so to imply that there's something more kind of destined with that character. Um, I guess it could be, but what Vatic wants from Jack seems a bit more personal.
Okay.
So I don't know. Oh, we haven't talked about Beverly and Picard's scene.
I was gonna get to that too. I was gonna get. Well, we still had to do Beverly and Shaw.
No, let's go do Beverly and Picard first,
Okay. All right.
because I think that scene is incredible. The two of
Yes.
them
Yes.
together. Gates McFadden gets to act for the first time in years.
I just love her.
It's really nice. And I don't mean like I'm sure she's acted in things that, TV and stage and whatnot, but I mean like in Star Trek,
Yeah.
she doesn't always get a lot of meat to work
Mhm.
with. And I think she got a lot of some really good stuff in this episode.
Yeah, I definitely, and I love the fact that we got this talk. We got them to kind of like sit down and just really air out everything. And you're like, how could Beverly go and keep her son away from Picard for all these years? And that gets answered so beautifully. I love the way that each line was delivered and seeing how Picard's face changes as each line gets hit, as he intakes each line, and he's like, wow, wow,
Well,
wow. And he gets
what I
more
like about
aggravated.
it is that they're both right.
Yeah, they are 100%.
This is an argument where both of these two people are right. She was wrong to take him, but he was also wrong.
Yes.
But he was also right. He's also right to be mad, but she's also right to be mad. That they have every right to be mad at each other, and they're both in the wrong and they're both in the right. And it makes such an interesting argument to watch because because Beverly is like, look, when I got pregnant, all these things happen. And what's really cool about that is that we get little hints at what happened after Star Trek Nemesis,
Yes, like during that time,
before
correct.
Picard left the Enterprise.
Yes.
And he's like, I didn't know that I was going to be the last time that I saw you.
Mhm.
And that's a really heartbreaking scene. And then when she's like, I knew I could protect my child. I didn't know I could protect Picard. It's like, and she was like, you used to tell me all the time how much you don't want to be a father because of your relationship with your dad. And he's like,
You
you're
never gave
right.
me the chance.
But you never gave me the chance to prove that and to prove
Yes.
that I wouldn't. And so and he even says like, and this is where I'm really glad that season 2 exists,
Okay.
because he says, I've learned that I would never have become my father, but you took away the chance for me to learn that 20 years ago.
Yes, and that's where, like, his Shakespearean acting took place, and I was like, "Wow," and then she delivers this absolute gut-wrenching line where she's like, "I told Jack who you are. He just did not wanna meet you." And I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
That just, like, tore away his soul, that his own son wants nothing to do with him.
And it's that line that makes him disregard Jack when he walks out of the sick bay,
Yeah,
and he says, "Walk with me, Will." And Will has a really interesting perspective because he's lost his son, and
correct.
he's like, "Look, you don't wanna regret this," which is, because in the flashback, he talks about the 17 seconds to get from the bridge to the sick bay, the
Mhm.
turbolift, which bookends with Picard going from the bridge to the sick bay at 17 seconds,
Yes.
uh, to make sure that Jack doesn't die. Is honestly, man, I this is a really good episode.
It was great, and I wanted to point that out, and I'm glad that you did because it's that, like, same thing again with the yin and yang, where you have at one point Will is going to a birth, and then the
Yeah,
other point you have Picard going to a potential death, and it's so awesome how both are aligning perfectly and exactly what you said because we both have experienced loss in our lives, especially with somebody close to us, and we get it all the time. You hear it all the time, like, "Oh, you're not granted tomorrow. Tomorrow's never granted, so make the best of what you have," and things of that nature. And it's like Will sees it at the sight of, "I would give up anything to have one moment with my son. Do
mhm,
not go and forsake everything because you lost out on 20 years. Those 20 years you'll never get back, but you have the moment right here and right now to make something, to do something, to go make things happen." And Picard is an old dog, so it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
yeah.
But I feel that he will eventually break down. Like Will's going to break through him, or maybe even Jordy might get into that moment of breaking through to him and make him realize, like, hey, I need to make amends with my son and I need to make sure that he knows I will be his father moving forward.
With a lot of talk of fathers and children, obviously we've got a lot of talk of Thad, who passed away before the
Mhm.
events of season 1. Jack being Picard's son. We know that Sydney and, there's one more child of the Forge that we're gonna meet. Um, Beverly, obviously Jack's kid. Um,
Will Crusher kind of being gone to space. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I was actually going to say a different. I was going to set up. I'm setting up a different joke. Do you think we'll see Alexander?
No, we're not going to see it.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. Oh,
Uh,
that's
I,
great.
I saw a meme where it was just like Raffi after Worf says all the dialogue he says, and Raffi's like son of a father of Alexander, and Worf goes who?
Oh, priceless.
So I think it'd be I would honestly be totally okay if we saw Alexander because I
If we
think
did, it would be cool.
it's
I would
kind of
laugh though.
shitty how that character gets the shaft so often.
Yes. I would laugh so hard. I would literally probably call you up and be like, dude, did you just see what happened?
Dude, they got Alexander. No, I think I think that'd be really funny. But there, there is kind of this like story happening about like, the next generation,
Yep. Look at you.
right? Like it is we're seeing a lot of talk about how these legacy characters are passing down the baton, and how it's happened to them before. Like it's considered that Kirk and Spock and McCoy, they passed the baton to the next
Exactly.
generation crew.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of seeing that happen again, and I think that's intentional. There's a lot of talk early in the production of the season where they were discussing how there's kind of set up for more, and I
Mhm.
think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing, while this is the end of the next generation cast, we're also seeing the beginning of a new cast of characters that could potentially headline their own show afterwards.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that when we talk about Discovery's Cancellation.
Sounds good.
I'll talk about that a little bit more. Where to next? Shaw
Shaw
thinks that
and
he's trying to figure out why the Shrike can find
yes.
them.
Yes. And
So Jack and Seven have to team up.
correct. And you're seeing this dynamic, and out of nowhere, Shaw's really like something's happened to him, and you don't know exactly what. He's just on the sick bed and just laying there, and he's like looks like he's about to have like a stroke, a seizure. He's about to die. This man is going into cardiac arrest.
Did you see that? Did you see him fly across the bridge?
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen it so many times where that kind of like happens, and they just get up, and there's just like a little bit of dust on them.
Oh, sure, but those bridges had carpet.
Soft landings.
Yeah.
Soft landings.
This bridge doesn't have carpet.
Not at all. Not at all. It's all tile. Seeing him lay there, and you realize like, oh crap, this dude's gonna die. And I don't know the doctor's name who's actually running on the Titan, who's like the head doctor.
I don't know.
You know her?
She's a Trill.
Okay. Yes. I saw the dots in the face. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. So seeing her kind of like, and say nothing's wrong with him. He's fine. He's probably just into like a little bit of pain. And she's like, no, Beverly's like, no, something's definitely wrong. And she feels around and she finds out that it's internal bleeding, and she goes into doctor mode. And the old doctor, the Trill doctor, saying like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You've been out of the medicine practice for so long. And it's like, sometimes the old stuff is better than the new stuff.
Well, the thing that kind of bugs me about that line is it feels very prejudiced, almost like the Titans doctor says that it would take me longer to teach you all the things you missed, but medicine doesn't evolve that far in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So a doctor from 20 years ago could conceivably do a lot of the same. She knows how to work a tricorder.
Yeah.
The tricorder tells you what to do.
Yeah.
So like, and the only thing that would change is that there would be different types of medication. And then she could ask a nurse, "Hey, do you have something for a broken bone, or do you still use the broken bone mending blood or whatever?"
Yeah.
So and like Dave Blast, the production designer, talked about this already on Twitter, that they wanted the sick bay, to look very similar to the one on the Enterprise E, because medical technology doesn't evolve as quickly as other technology.
Okay.
So it still should look relatively familiar to us. They still have the med bay, they still have the surgeon beds, they still have the the hype. They still have hypo sprays. Like it's a lot of the same things. It's just kind of been a little bit more streamlined.
Hmm.
So Beverly shouldn't actually be completely out of her element like that doctor says she is. And she proves that
Yeah,
by
correct.
being like, I ran an imaging scanner, there's no internal bleeding. An imaging scanner doesn't always pick up the internal bleeding. So having so she has her old world doctor thing to be like, this is what we did on the Enterprise D. And this is, yes, he's bleeding internally.
Yeah. Well, it reminded me a lot of like back in our day when we went to school and you had to do like computer class. At that time, it was like, I don't know, Windows 8.
Sure.
So it's like by time you finish that class and you got to the end of it, there's been like 4 generations of Windows already happening, and nobody teaches the old way of what you used to do back with Windows 8. And I feel like that
Sure.
was kind of like the same concept where this new doctor, this Trill doctor, is not used to actually feeling somebody's body and saying, oh, this is what's actually going on, because she's never taught that old school method. But now you have Beverly, who's been taught that method, relies on that instantly and says, I don't trust all this imaging because I'd rather go and feel. That's the way I'm taught, is to feel. And maybe that's the disconnect where she has the upper hand, if you will.
Yeah, I think there's something to that also. You know, medical technology, the technology in Star Trek can kind of be seen as like the Next Generation and the original series. The difference in technology is like CDs to floppy disks.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You can't put a floppy disk in a CD drive.
No, you can't.
But the difference in technology from the late 24th century to the first year of the 25th technology of the 25th century is DVD to Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
You can put a DVD in a Blu-ray in a Blu-ray disc and it'll play.
Yeah.
And I think that is exemplified in Beverly's and how Beverly handles this, because she resuscitates Jack.
Yeah.
Because again, she knows how to work a tricorder. Tricorder technology doesn't seem to have changed very much.
Correct. Yeah. I definitely agree. That was a good analogy.
And I really appreciate. By the way, this is the same tricorder technology from the second season. I really like it. I think the tricorder tech is really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's just a phone, by the way. I think it's just like an Android phone, but it looks really cool. Jack also gets a chance to do a bit of a doctoring, and I thought that was cool. See that other side of him.
It was okay. So when I saw that, I was like, this guy's already starting to flirt with the ladies. I see him working his magic.
He's just trying to mend her bones.
But it reminded me what we spoke about with Picard being a ladies man back in his younger days. So it's like that little hint was a reminder of like, hey, Picard was a ladies man. He was a slut back in the day. His son looks like his son's a slut as well.
I really like Ed Spilliers, by the way. I think he's really good as Jack Crusher. Do you know the controversy around his age?
I think didn't you tell me like it's a 10-year gap or whatever type of ordeal?
He's I think 35.
Okay.
But the character is 20.
And it's supposed to be, yeah.
I think that's kind of fun. Anyway.
We had Shaw with Jack.
Yeah, and so Shaw says to Jack, "How are they finding us?"
Yeah.
Which leads Jack to what I really like is how organically Jack went to 7. Like it wasn't that like I need someone's help, but he can't get to the bridge, so he's like, okay, 7 was a Fenris Ranger. She would know some tricks. Okay, what would this trick be that would get these people to find us in this nebula? It shouldn't be possible. And that leads to 7 and Jack finding the sabotage. By the way, the moment we saw that guy, because when we see the changeling on the Titan, because we first see him, they're looking at the back of the ship to see if they can find the Shrike. Well, the moment I saw that guy, I was like, "Oh, this guy's a dick." I didn't think he was a changeling, but I thought he was a dick.
That's hilarious. He just rubbed me the wrong way instantly as well. He was another Shaw to me.
There's a whole ship full of Shaws.
This was overall though a really great episode.
The Vulcan science officer, she's really cool. I like her.
Do you think we're gonna get more Vulcans?
I don't know. I think the whole bridge dynamic when Riker takes command of the bridge is really cool. It's really nice to see Riker take that command. It's just something we hadn't seen before, and his face when the Titan is disabled.
Yes, and it's like, this is your fault, Picard.
No, but it's not even that. You look at it. You look at him, and he's just like there's so many emotions running through his face, and none of them are anger.
Yeah.
Until he turns to Picard.
Yes.
And that's when he's angry.
Yes. And it was ending the episode like that way was so fantastic.
Oh, we haven't talked about the portal weapon.
Okay, let's do it.
Because that's so cool.
It is. And it's like we talked about it in episode 2 where we had the Academy just kind of vanish and then get dropped. And we didn't know kind of where that technology kind of came from. And then we're seeing it again happen in like real time again, and it was so cool over and over again.
The way, so we've talked all the time when we talk about Star Trek Discovery. I always mention how good the show looks because I do think the show looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
But Picard this season has really stepped it up, and I think this season looks incredible. The shot of the Titan leaving the nebula through the portal, but the camera's following the Titan through the portal.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
it's so good. That's such a good shot.
The cinematography on here and the digital effects are really, really superb.
Yeah.
And I did like the way that like Riker was like, hey, LaForge, get us out of here. And she just turns her ship around and you watch and you're like, all right, are you guys going to like hit some warp speed? What's going on? Why are you taking so long to get out?
Well, they can't get to warp until they leave the nebula.
Exactly. Yeah. So you see them turn to try to leave the nebula and it just forces them right back into where they were. And I was like, no.
It's so good. I'm final thoughts on this episode. I think I've got all my notes done. This was just such a good episode.
It was.
I have a hard time believing that the show will beat it. But this was by far, I get the bar isn't a high, but this was the best episode of the show so far in all 3 seasons. This episode was incredible.
I'm right there with you 100%. And it's starting to really creep up, at least for this one season, is really getting up to Strange New Worlds for me. Like I'm liking it that much.
Yeah, wow. It could conceivably hit Lower Decks for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Is Lower Decks is still higher than Strange New Worlds for you, though,
No,
right?
Strange New Worlds is number 1 for me.
Oh, Lower Decks has been number 1 for me.
Oh, okay, interesting. So Lower Decks is number 2 for me.
Gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So Strange New. So okay, actually, this is a good. How would you rank the current Star Trek shows?
Do we have to include Discovery?
Yes, we have to include Discovery.
Okay, so starting from the bottom would be Discovery, and it's no hate against anybody in development with Discovery at all. Like you guys are doing work. This is just not the show for me. But Discovery, I have not seen Prodigy, so I can't actually go and rank it on there. Then I would do Picard. Then I would do Strange New Worlds, and then Lower Decks.
Okay. I would do Discovery on the bottom, unfortunately. Then Prodigy.
Okay.
Then Picard. Then Lower Decks, then Strange New Worlds.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And that's where Picard is for me at the moment. At this moment in the season, I'm very interested to know where it will hit by the end of the season.
I'm right there with you. Do you want to go and talk some Discovery before we close out?
Yes. So before we end this episode, guys, the Picard talk is done. If you don't want to hear us talk about Discovery for a bit, you can leave. That's fine. But let's talk about the big news that Star Trek Discovery will be coming to an end.
Yes.
At season 5.
Yes. I'm happy. I know it sounds mean.
You're happy.
I am very happy. I do hope that they can conclude this story and really understand, like, hey, y'all have screwed up too many times to like not get this last season right. So end it with a bang and end it strong, end it hard. Make us regret that this is going to be the last and final season of Discovery.
Mhm.
That's what I really want to happen, and I want them to lay everything out on the line and just say, "You know what? Screw this. We're doing this. We're going big. We're going home. We're gonna take all this budget and we're gonna make a hell of a series. Just blow it out of the park." And that's what I'm hoping for. I don't think we're gonna get that, but I hope for it.
So I talked a bit about this already on the Figner podcast last week. For those of you who want, I'll say a lot of the same things. I'm actually bummed.
Really? Why?
Well, but Discovery, I think, had a lot of potential moving into the 32nd century, and a lot of potential that it didn't really get a chance to do. I feel like we talk about it a lot. Like Discovery for me is like aggressively fine.
Mhm.
Um, except for season 2, which I think is really great. But the last 2 seasons of the show have not really done what I think they should have done. Moving to the 32nd century should have freed the show, but it really didn't.
Mhm.
And I was kind of hoping that a long run for the show, it can finally kind of find its legs again and be like, okay, we realize the potential. More than anything, it's a bummer that we're going to leave this crew without me knowing half of their names. And
Isn't that sad?
yeah, it really is because like Discovery is not a flawless show. There was a lot of love put into Discovery, and there's a lot of hatred that goes towards Discovery that I don't think
It's fair.
is fair, because it's really not that bad. Um, but it is for my money the weakest of the Star Trek shows, and for its flagship, I always kind of felt like it had the potential to be more, and it
Mhm.
never really did that. It never really got to be more. But more than anything, it's a bummer that it doesn't look like this was the plan.
I was gonna say that. I felt that at least from my takeaway on it was Strange New Worlds did so well, and seeing how well Lower Decks does, seeing all these different shows do so well, and then seeing Discovery just constantly just plummet and plummet and plummet, and then like realizing, okay, what is going on? Why there's this disconnect between the audience and then the cast and the story that we're trying to go and perceive. And I think because of that, they're like, might as well just scrap it all away. We have 3 amazing shows that are doing really well. Let's put our time and effort into these amazing shows that are doing well. Even though, yes, we're losing Picard, we still
Yeah.
have Strange New Worlds that's doing great. We have Prodigy that's probably coming back for the children. And of course, we have Lower Decks as well.
So we know of new seasons coming for Prodigy, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds, and it looking likely Strange New Worlds is getting a third season renewal, which would be great.
Mhm.
But with Picard coming to an end and Discovery coming to an abrupt end, and now to be fair, they're doing reshoots to make sure the season wraps up in a way that feels like a series wrap up and less of a season wrap up, which is good. I'm glad they're getting the chance to do that. This has more to do with Paramount putting less money into Paramount Plus than it does Star Trek Discovery,
Okay.
as Star Trek Discovery's quality. So with Picard and Discovery coming to an end, it it kind of puts a dark cloud over the future of Star Trek on Paramount Plus. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the streaming bubble is about to burst.
Oh, yeah.
It's it's becoming an unsustainable method for making television at this point because
Mhm.
the budgets are insane.
Yes, very much. And there's so many different avenues that they can potentially go down.
Yeah, and because they're not getting ad revenue for any of these, they have to rely on subscription revenue, and after a while, you're not getting new subscribers. In fact,
Yeah.
Paramount Plus lost subscribers last year.
Mhm.
So, and Marina Sirtis talked about that with on the cruise, on the Star Trek cruise. By the way, we should go on the Star Trek cruise, you and me.
Let's do it, dude.
Um, but so like what I think is really is so what I think is kind of worrying is that because Star Trek is now a streaming only show, if that streaming bubble pops, Star Trek will be
Mhm.
a casualty of it.
Yes. Well, okay, so when Discovery first started, I forgot the streaming service it was on. Do you remember what it
CBS
was?
All Access.
CBS, okay, and then that just took a dump, a
Well,
huge dump.
that became Paramount Plus.
Correct. I feel that Paramount Plus does not have anything sustainable for it, because when you look at other streaming services, they have a lot going on HBO has Game of Thrones. They have all these different things. They have Last of Us. You have Amazon having
The
Jack
Boys.
Reacher, The Boys. You have what's going on right now with Amazon. You had Lord of the Rings. I mean, they have heavy hitting shows that people are drawn to.
Yeah, well, Amazon is an interesting case because they aren't just a streaming service. They're
This is
also
their second. This is their side piece. Is doing
right.
this.
This is their side hustle.
Yes, but when it comes to like Paramount, it's like, okay, what did you guys have? You guys had Halo that
It's terrible, like god awful terrible.
it's terrible, and I still haven't even finished it for which I don't think I'm going to. I really am trying, but I don't think I will. I really don't.
You just got to tell your Patreons, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to put myself through this torture anymore.
it's brutal. So it's like they don't have any shows going for them, and what's going to draw people into Paramount? Nothing, because if you're losing Star Trek listeners, Star Trek viewers, because you're now canceling off shows, it's like they have literally pretty much 2 shows to watch and a kid show, and it's like, okay, that's the extent of your Star Trek bubble is that.
Yeah. The other thing is the future of Star Trek is unknown at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of call for a sequel series to Picard, maybe with Seven and Raffi, maybe with a new crew in total, but continuing the exploits into the 25th century is something that I think Paramount Plus needs to consider.
Okay.
And especially if Picard does really well, then Terry Matalas is the person to do it. There have been rumors of a Starfleet Academy show. The Section 31 show has been in development for 40 years at this point, it sounds like. And so that'd be kind of cool. Streaming shows don't often get 5 seasons, so it's really cool that Discovery was able to get 5 seasons. It's highly unlikely any of these Star Trek shows make it to 7 seasons, like the old shows did.
Yeah,
I would love it, but it's unlikely. God, man, give me 7 seasons of Strange New Worlds. But Strange New Worlds is actually a really good point because we don't have a lot of real estate in Strange New Worlds to move, because eventually it's going to hit the original series.
Correct. It's very limited. Hey, we're going to get to a point where we're going to see the death of, or the situation that's going to take place.
Yeah, so they're going to hit that eventually. So there's the Strange New Worlds has kind of got a deadline on it, and I hope they are able to go as far as that. Lower Decks can conceivably go for a while. Prodigy could probably go for a little while because that's also a Nickelodeon show, not just a Paramount Plus show. But a streaming show, but in live action, that just becomes Strange New Worlds, becoming the flagship show. So if you do the Section 31 show, which nobody wants, and you do the Starfleet Academy show, which maybe somebody wants, I kind of want it.
I would want it, yes.
So then there's 2 more shows for you, but again, it's just kind of unknown where Star Trek goes from here. The other project that we also haven't heard a lot about since its announcement was Star Trek Con, which was the audio adventure coming to Spotify.
I want to say it was Spotify, yes.
I think so. That Nicholas Meyer is working on. We haven't heard about that since Star Trek Day last year. I remember hearing about it because we both are podcasters, so naturally anything audio related we tune in on. We're like, what? Dude, I'm so excited for that show too.
Yes, I am. And it's so there's a lot of potential real estate that they can go down.
Yeah.
It's just making sure that they have something that is of interest to a long fan.
I think the way to go is making a show set after Picard.
Do you think that
if they did that, yes, if they did that, I think it would go a lot better. At this point, Star Trek is a streaming show, and there's no way, as a streaming series, there's no way around that.
No, I meant as in like, okay, do you think that they should leave Paramount and maybe go to another location? Like, I don't own this, but like going to Apple or going to Hulu, where you have the versions of ads that you can actually utilize.
That's a good point, and it should be mentioned that a lot of these streaming services are utilizing ad supported tiers. I have Paramount Plus ad supported. it's awful. The ads on Paramount Plus are way too loud. I don't understand why. But the so like there is ad revenue coming to some of these streaming services now, but I think at this point I don't see Paramount selling Star Trek.
Because that's their only hope.
Yeah, that's really all they have.
Unless they get like an abundance of money where they're like, hey, we can give you guys an offer that you guys can, or maybe doing some type of joiner where it's like Disney Plus and Discovery kind of concept.
Maybe, but there's also you gotta remember that Paramount right now is in the middle of a costly merger with Showtime.
Yes.
So that's also taking a lot of the revenue away. At the end of the day, it's really not Star Trek Discovery's cancellation that has me bummed. It's the uncertainty of what Star Trek's future is
Mhm.
that has me bummed. And I hope they can resolve these issues.
Do you think that the merger will happen with Showtime?
Oh, it will. It will 100% happen.
So then do you think that there's a potential to kind of get a rated R Star Trek?
like a Skinemax Star Trek?
Yes. Do you think there's a potential for that? I'm not saying
No, I
like
don't think
porn or
so.
anything, but I mean like more of like you're really getting a lot more of the violence involved in there. You're getting a lot of that kind of concept.
That was Discovery in the beginning.
Yeah, but it really died down
Sure.
extremely fast.
I don't see them trying that again though.
Okay.
Because again, they tried that with Discovery season 1 and they decided against it after season 2.
You're like, yeah, no, it's not for us.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that again. Could be
Well,
wrong though.
fingers crossed that this thing continues to live long and prosper. So
Cute. Hopefully it continues to boldly go.
there you go. It's 5-year mission at least, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get 5 years of I think we'll get a good 5 years of Strange New Worlds.
I hope. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. I just want to know what's after Picard. But we'll have to wait to see.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that'll do it.
That's gonna do it for me.
All right, so that's Star Trek Picard episode 3, and a little talk about Star Trek Discovery's cancellation. For you guys, you get 2 episodes for the price of none. So that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Cookie, where can people find you?
Social media on Instagram at Just Little Podcast, on Twitter at Just Podcasting, YouTube Just Little Podcast, Patreon Just Little Podcast. There will be no more Halo. You heard it from me. No more Halo talk.
Big scoop
on my Patreon. Hopefully, I can get back into the role of things. It's been tough to do like scheduling, so hopefully, I can get back into those.
I know how hard it's been with scheduling. I'm trying to schedule this show with you.
Exactly. It's been tough. And it's like, Cookie, you're available? I'm like, I don't know.
But I understand how things are difficult for you right now. So
Sure.
I appreciate you taking the time out to do the show with me.
Absolutely. And thank you for always letting me hop on here and talk Star Trek with you.
Of course. Honestly, I consider you part of the Fickner podcast family anyway. It's still little tears. Oh. So that'll do it. So this is Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Picard. There are other Fake Nerds Watch shows that you can check out if you like this video and you subscribe to this channel. By the way, Fake Nerds Watch also exists in audio. Make sure to subscribe to that audio feed if you like to get these episodes in audio format. The Last of Us is a Fake Nerds Watch series going on right now. Coming to an end soon, probably, because I think that show is ending.
Yeah, very close.
And we've discussed how we're going to do The Mandalorian season 3. It's going to be a little bit different than we've done The Mandalorian before, but a Fake Nerds Watch series on The Mandalorian is imminent. And you can, of course, check out Basement Arcade, which is our video game Let's Play series, Basement Arcade Pause Menu, which is our video game discussion series, Animation Station, speaks for itself, and Fake Nerd Book Club, which is a comic book series. There are more things coming. I don't want to say too much about things that I'm working on, but I will say here, like I said on the podcast, I have another show on this channel called Conversation, which is audio only. Conversation now has an official release window of April.
Woo!
So season 2 of Conversation is coming.
All right.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys to finally listen to that. I've talked about it on the social medias and, of course, on the Pickner podcast last week. So stay tuned for that. Okay, I think that's it. Of course, you can find all of us Patreon, TeePublic if you'd like to support us financially. There is a on all the social medias a Fickner podcast. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamaMedia.com. Cookie, where can they find you?
Just little podcasts on social media.
Very cool. Until next time you see us, guys, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.